express my deep concern, Kash Patel. He has vowed to retaliate against the president-elect's enemies, quote, not just in the government, but in the media, end quote. As we know, the president-elect has already sued a pollster in Iowa whose predictions turned out to be wrong, which happens with pollsters all over the place, as we all know. But a free press is essential to our democracy. Reporters must be able to do their job without fear of being investigated or prosecuted. Will you commit that the Justice Department, under your leadership, if confirmed, will respect the importance of a free press?
What we just witnessed was a senator redirecting the conversation to where it truly belongs, the real front lines of justice. And yes, there was live testimony and evidence to back it up. Senator Amy Klobuchar didn't waste time with pleasantries or empty posturing. Instead, she placed the spotlight squarely on the prosecutors and career professionals who risk their lives daily to uphold the law. These are the men and women who break apart fentanyl trafficking networks, who take down violent gangs, and who defend civil rights in the long shadow of George Floyd's murder. By grounding the discussion in their work, Klobuchar underscored the stakes of the hearing from the very beginning. This wasn't about smiles for the cameras or neatly packaged sound bites. It was about a central question. Would the next Attorney General stand behind those who fight for justice every single day, or would politics and partisanship be allowed to undermine them?
Senator Klobuchar.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for mentioning antitrust. I'm really proud of the work you and I have done together, as well as Senator Lee and I. And I know we discussed with you, Ms. Bondi, the work on allowing state AGs, a bill that Senator Lee led, and I was the Democratic lead on letting state AGs keep the antitrust cases involving tech in their states. And Senator Grassley and I successfully passed our bill to finally update the merger fees, which have allowed larger mergers have to pay in more, smaller mergers less, and that has led, along with other reasons, to beef up the antitrust division of antitrust during the last few years. And I want to make sure that you are committed to continuing a strong antitrust division with adequate personnel.
And if I am confirmed, I intend on bringing in Gail Slater. She is amazing, and I think bipartisan support for her, and did a lot of antitrust. Well, I had someone who knew antitrust much better than I when I was state attorney general, and it's very important.
But how about the resources for the division? It has been under this administration, the current outgoing one, they have added lawyers and others to it. And my question was is if you'll continue that.
Yes, I was actually looking at the structure of that unit, and if I am confirmed, I've been a little busy. I plan on working with Gail Slater and all the lawyers in that unit.
Okay. And then just you and I discussed some of the important cases, the Google case, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, the Apple case. I don't know if we talked about that one, but RealPage. And will you commit to continue these cases and to pursue remedies that will fully protect consumers from anti-competitive conduct? I'm not asking what the result will be. I can imagine you couldn't answer that, but I'm just asking that if you are confirmed that you will continue the work on these cases.
Yes, Senator, I haven't looked at those on a case-by-case basis, but I'm committed to that type of case and protecting consumers. And I will look at that and have that unit look at that right away.
Thank you.
Senator Amy Klobuchar opened with sharp, focused questions on antitrust enforcement, zeroing in on some of the most high-profile cases: Google, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, Apple, and RealPage. She pressed Pam Bondi to take a clear, unequivocal position on whether these cases should be pursued aggressively. Bondi's replies, however, were anything but direct. Instead of firm commitments, she offered carefully polished promises of general support paired with vague nods toward deferring to experts like Gail Slater. On the surface, her responses sounded professional, but underneath, they revealed a reluctance to show genuine conviction. Klobuchar's line of questioning cut to the heart of the matter. Antitrust enforcement isn't an abstract legal exercise. It's one of the most important defenses against the unchecked growth of corporate power. By grounding the discussion in real, ongoing cases, Klobuchar underscored the urgency of the issue. And in contrast, Bondi's scripted evasions only highlighted her troubling track record of siding with corporate interests over consumers. The broader takeaway was unmistakable. While Klobuchar stood firmly on substance, Bondi leaned on talking points. And in a moment where clarity on corporate accountability was most needed, the gap between them couldn't have been clearer.
At its founding in 1870, the Justice Department's priority was to enforce civil rights. That's what was founded, the reason guaranteed by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments during Reconstruction. Today, civil rights enforcement is led by the Civil Rights Division. Do you believe it is a critical mission of the Justice Department to vigorously enforce our nation's civil rights laws?
Yes, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Voting rights. Will you commit to properly enforcing federal laws that protect the right to vote that are critical to ensuring free and fair elections, like the Voting Rights Act?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. We're back to the FBI nominee. Again, I express my deep concern, Kash Patel. He has vowed to retaliate against the president-elect's enemies, quote, not just in the government, but in the media, end quote. As we know, the president-elect has already sued a pollster in Iowa whose predictions turned out to be wrong, which happens with pollsters all over the place, as we all know. But a free press is essential to our democracy. Reporters must be able to do their job without fear of being investigated or prosecuted. Will you commit that the Justice Department, under your leadership, if confirmed, will respect the importance of a free press?
Absolutely.
And if the president or depends on who the FBI director is, I have some strong views on that, tries to push to go after the media, how would you respond to that?
I have not, clearly, he's made some statements, but I haven't talked to Mr. Patel about those statements. But going after the media just because they're the media is wrong, of course.
All right, thank you.
What played out in that chamber was not just another confirmation hearing. It was a test, a crucible, pitting principle against politics. Pam Bondi may have walked in with her trademark confidence, but Senator Amy Klobuchar ensured that confidence was tested at every turn. This was no routine exchange of talking points. It was a confrontation over whether justice would serve the people or the powerful. Klobuchar began by reminding everyone of history. The Department of Justice was born out of crisis, created after the Civil War with a mission to safeguard civil rights, particularly the right to vote in a nation still fractured by division. By invoking that origin, she framed the stakes of the hearing. Would the next Attorney General continue that mission with independence and integrity, or retreat into political loyalty when pressure mounted? Bondi's responses were predictable, polished assurances and generic yes statements, but they rang hollow. The real test, Klobuchar made clear, wasn't how Bondi answered easy questions. It was whether she could demonstrate independence from political power when the stakes were high. To drive the point home, Klobuchar contrasted Bondi with past attorneys general from both parties who had drawn firm boundaries against White House interference. They knew that the Justice Department's credibility depends on its freedom from partisanship. Bondi claimed she would do the same, but her history told a different story. Years of partisan defense work, close ties to Trump, and conflicts of interest that stripped her assurances of credibility. Klobuchar left no doubt. Independence is not a slogan, it is the bedrock of justice. And Bondi looked less like its defender than someone positioned to protect her political allies. The scrutiny deepened when Klobuchar raised the name of Kash Patel, one of Trump's most loyal operatives. Patel had previously suggested dismantling the FBI's intelligence division, a unit central to counterterrorism and national security. Klobuchar asked directly, would Bondi support those views? Bondi dodged, claiming she hadn't seen Patel's remarks, but the evasion spoke volumes. When faced with a choice between principle and political loyalty, she chose not to confront extremism within her own ranks. The questioning then turned to health care. Klobuchar pressed her on Medicare's new authority to negotiate prescription drug prices, a policy celebrated by seniors but opposed by pharmaceutical companies. Bondi pledged she would enforce the law, but Klobuchar reminded the room of Bondi's long record fighting against the Affordable Care Act. The contradiction was stark. Klobuchar put it plainly. It was like someone burning down your house one year and then promising to guard the porch the next. Reproductive rights were next. Klobuchar asked whether Bondi would enforce the FACE Act, which protects clinics and patients from harassment and violence. Bondi answered yes, but added a caveat, saying it should apply equally to pregnancy centers. That framing diluted the urgency of the law, which was designed to address the very real threats faced primarily by abortion clinics. By flattening the distinction, Bondi signaled where her loyalties lay, not with protecting vulnerable clinics, but with appeasing her conservative base. A pattern became clear. On every major issue, DOJ independence, FBI security, healthcare, reproductive rights, Bondi offered vague assurances and evasions. She avoided firm commitments that might alienate her allies. She leaned on rhetoric designed to get her through the hearing without binding herself to action. Klobuchar, by contrast, pressed relentlessly, exposing the gap between Bondi's words and her record. By the end of the hearing, the confrontation distilled into one defining question. Would Pam Bondi serve justice or politics? Would she protect the public interest or the interests of the powerful? Her evasions, her contradictions, and her history provided the answer more clearly than her words ever could. Bondi did not appear as an independent guardian of the law. She appeared as a partisan loyalist cloaked in the language of justice. But the implications went beyond Bondi herself. Klobuchar turned the hearing into a referendum on the future of the Justice Department. Would it remain an independent pillar of democracy, or would it become another partisan tool bent to the will of political power? Under Klobuchar's questioning, the facade crumbled. Independence was claimed but never proven. Promises were made but never grounded in conviction. And what remained was a chilling reality, a nominee unwilling to stand up to power when it mattered most. The choice, as Klobuchar framed it from the very beginning, could not be clearer. Do we want a Justice Department that protects democracy, or one that protects the powerful?